American Dad is a show we've covered quite a bit on this channel, and we still have a lot of questions that need answers. Today, we want to tackle some of the most well-known theories surrounding the cartoon and see if we can bring some light to some possible truths or debunk some conspiracies. Just like our King of the Hill video, we'll be breaking these theories down and ranking them by plausibility. From the BS and full of holes, to the possible, to the probable, and absolute truth bombs. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is American Dad Theories BS to Truth Bombs. First up, let's get the theories out of the way that have been debunked. These theories either have so many holes in them they can't possibly be true, they lack evidence, or they've been confirmed false by the creators. Simply put, these theories are bullshit. Roger is the Smiths' firstborn son. This theory has been circulating on Reddit, and we felt it was worth mentioning here at the very bottom. The theory goes that Roger was a normal kid to start with, that he was popular and did pretty well in school. But after being abducted by aliens at a fairly young age, he just wasn't the same.
The CIA's here. This should be interesting.
The ordeal made Roger so depressed he took up drinking, doing drugs, and fell into a fantasy world where he depended on these various personas and ridiculous stories to cope with the trauma. While we can see some of the reasoning behind this theory, we feel that it's debunked pretty harshly due to the lack of evidence. After all, the Smiths don't do well with keeping secrets, with eventually everything being exposed in some way. We can't help but think if Roger was just a young man struggling with a horrible experience, that he wouldn't have all of the abilities and relationships he is shown to have throughout the show. All of the characters are Roger's personas. This was an idea originally presented by Reddit user The Fact Sphere. It centers around the content of the episode The Wiener of Our Discontent in Season 4. In this episode, Roger reveals himself to Stan as being dubbed the Decider by his people, being given the task to see if the people of Earth were worthy of being left to live or if they deserved to die. However, when Roger goes to end all life using his ship, it doesn't work, and this is where he finds out that he was sent as a crash test dummy.
The alien inside is merely a crash test dummy.
However, what if it was a way for Roger to cope with what really happened? The speculation at play is that Roger did in fact end all life on Earth at one point using his ship and was unable to do it again. He had no memory of it due to the trauma the event caused him, and so Roger then went on to create these other characters as a way to cope with what he had done. It's really not likely at all, considering we see what events occurred that led Roger to come to Earth in the first place. But it's a fun thing to suggest since we do see in an episode of Family Guy that characters can be subjected to trauma after committing regrettable actions, displayed when Peter goes crazy after turning everyone into Robin Williams. With that said, that's obviously not evidence, so we'll strike this theory up as BS. But moving out of the BS to the next category, these theories still have a lot of problems, not enough to say they're completely debunked, but still. These theories are full of holes. Stewie controls American Dad. All of Seth MacFarlane's shows correlate with one another in some way, with a few character interactions between the main protagonists taking place. There was even a series of hurricane-based episodes on all three shows, showing each family struggling with the storm in their own way. This idea starts with Stewie building a machine to live out his fantasy of finally killing Lois and taking over the country. In this scenario, Stewie infiltrates the CIA and uses the computer to hold the United States hostage by taking control of the power grid.
I now control the entire planet's power grid.
He ends up in a confrontation with Stan and Bullock during this time, suggesting that the entire process of American Dad is a figment of Stewie's imagination. It's an interesting idea, but there's also some evidence that Family Guy is completely fictional according to American Dad. Stan lists Brian as his #1 favorite fictional dog, Stan is seen watching Family Guy and praising Brian for becoming Republican, and Steve and Roger are seen watching an episode of one of Brian and Stewie's adventures while on a bus, criticizing the show's unrealistic nature. Then again, we also see Peter, Stan, and Cleveland all interacting during the hurricane storyline, so take that information how you will.
Oh man,
classic American dad.
Stewie is one of Roger's personas. This one was posted on Reddit by user jkeed22 and suggests that Stewie is a product of Roger's love of creating characters. On the one hand, it's an interesting theory. The characters aren't shown to have direct interaction with one another, unless you count the brief gag of the Smiths and Griffins meeting. And even for that circumstance, we've seen Roger use his speed to switch places more than a few times, even going back and forth from a plane when interacting with Francine as she goes to meet her new cooking instructor.
That's enough turning around.
There's also the fact that Stewie was able to become pregnant using Brian's DNA, something that Roger is also capable of doing. Stewie is able to talk and behave unlike any other kids his age, and the two of them share a lot of flamboyant characteristics. However, we have to give this theory a low spot due to a couple of reasons. Stewie is shown in early episodes to be pretty clueless about his surroundings and certain aspects of life, even when alone. He had no idea the man in white was really meant to be a doctor, taking out a cult leader by mistake. He panicked at the idea of trick-or-treaters, didn't understand his tricycle was stolen by a bully, and is still trying to learn the things kids his age do, like the alphabet and shapes.
You do have to ride it to truly appreciate its virtues.
Not to mention when time literally reversed and Stewie was almost put back into his mother's womb. No matter how good of a character Roger makes, he wouldn't be able to trick time itself. We also feel the need to point out that Roger doesn't really appear to have the capability to create the same devices and machines that Stewie can. Roger is seen more taking advantage of alien technology than his own abilities. Anything he creates is along the lines of a character or performance of some sort. The closest we see Roger deal with time travel is when he's dragged along with Stan's wish to be a bachelor. And with that said, we now enter the middle category, where we may stumble onto some truth. Maybe. These theories are The Possible, a TV show inside of a TV show. Now, in a previous listing, we mentioned how the American Dad universe may be a figment of Stewie's imagination, but this theory goes even further. Over the course of American Dad, we see more than a few times where the fourth wall is broken and that the characters are performers. We've seen Stan give Roger a trophy for a vagina joke, Klaus in front of a green screen when Stan refuses to read a script, and we've seen Roger urge Steve to say his lines after falling from a window.
I just get paid the most by far, but you all make it work.
We've also seen this same format on Family Guy, with the Griffins giving commentary of their time on the show. However, in one episode in particular, Seth and the rest of the cast interact with the Griffin family, and Seth is heard telling all of the characters that nothing they did mattered because they aren't real.
None of you are real. You're all TV characters.
We realize that's a part of the Family Guy universe, but as the shows interlock in many ways, we feel it's necessary to point out. If this were to hold up with American Dad as well, then the family may be aware on some level that their time on screen is a performance for us, which is why we get the occasional fourth wall break. That is meant to relieve the writing staff from creativity fatigue. Avery Bullock is Susie Swanson. This is a pretty common idea among fans and is one we've covered once on the channel before. As seen in the episode Virtual Insanity, Avery's chosen avatar is an infant so that he can indulge in a weird fetish he has.
Another feeding? My, you have quite the appetite.
Avery and Susie's inner thoughts are voiced by Patrick Stewart, leading to a lot of viewers thinking that Avery's giving commentary on Susie's life while using the suit. Honestly, that makes it even more morbid that Susie just sits and listens to her brother breaking down over everything that he experienced while at war, and would portray Avery to be even more cold-hearted than he already is. But we've seen plenty of times that Avery has gone to extreme measures for national security. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for him to inhabit the body of a young girl that is neighbors with Stewie, who is the ultimate threat with his various weapons and machines. Avery is pretty careless, but that would probably pop up on his radar at some point. Moving on to our next category, these next conspiracies make a lot of sense. In fact, we think they're more likely to be true than not. These theories are the probable. The CIA knows about Roger and the Smiths. Reddit user abaker74 made a few good points suggesting that the CIA is well aware of Roger's location during the show. Longtime viewers will know that Roger is a unique being with a lot of abilities. Super speed, being able to blend in with various disguises, and being able to manipulate those around him makes him hard to keep track of.
You hustling me, boy?
The theory states that the CIA decided to use Stan as a way of keeping Roger in one location to keep a better eye on him. They chose Stan because he was the most gullible agent who could be picked and had a family that Roger could become emotionally attached to. The reason the CIA keeps bringing up having to look for Roger but ultimately keep failing is that they are well aware of Roger's need to feel like the center of attention and be deemed important, such as when he was obsessed with being the decider. This also has the added benefit of the Smiths making sure Roger disguises himself in order to keep the general public in the dark about alien life. Another user, Trevor J414, expanded on the original post, giving a few more supporting pieces of evidence, stating that Stan has roughly 7 tracking chips on him according to Bullock, and that during Stan's time job hunting, he was tracked all over by snipers who took out anyone that Stan mentioned as CIA work too, always shouting for Stan to put a sock in it.
You really gotta put a sock in it, Stan!
The entire show is CIA footage. This idea is also given to us by Reddit user Trevor J414 and is a relatively long one. Basically, the idea goes that the CIA has the know-how to monitor and control agents. This ties in with the previous entry of the CIA knowing the whereabouts of Roger, even if Avery himself or the Langley location as a whole doesn't. It plays with the idea that the entire show is the result of monitoring and controlling the Smith family and their environment to keep an eye on Roger, using Stan and his family in the process. The CIA, upon finding Roger's location, decided that the family was amusing and worth watching, and so decides to make it their entertainment. When Avery shows his employees the holodeck, he shows the others a memory of himself in an all-boys school. But we see the memory not from Avery's perspective, but from the outside. Avery had stated that this was a result of CIA headphones that were meant to scan memories. But from the camera shots, it makes more sense that it would be the result of monitoring. There is also the fact that Stan is well aware of his theme song, seen visibly jumping from bed and singing, and even scolds Roger at one point for not being present in the car before he crashes it. Dick even makes a comment about stealing Stan's spot at the flagpole when Stan is thrown off of his morning routine.
I'm taking your spot today!
There's more the post goes over, such as Toshi stating he knows Roger is an alien in a wig, and perhaps that is why he's only able to speak Japanese, even though his own family doesn't. Perhaps it was a way the CIA kept Toshi from talking and left him to keep watching the Smith family. This would also explain why in later seasons we have these random side characters who go on about themselves before turning to the camera and winking, or stating that now the audience knows everything about them. Finally, we've reached the truth. People have blown the whistle on these theories with such compelling evidence that they must be true, or a creator outright confirmed it. These theories are the truth bombs. The CIA created the humanoid animals. This was pointed out by Reddit user Dial Taylor, and they presented a lot of interesting evidence to back this up. It's been established in not only American Dad, but also Family Guy, Ted, and The Cleveland Show that humanoid animals aren't a rare thing. And in the cases of Reginald and Klaus, they have direct links to the CIA and are able to place their existence on a common source, though it was for different reasons. Klaus's brain was switched after he almost won the gold for Germany. Reginald was the product of an experiment when he went in for a free meal. The CIA deciding a koala would be less suspicious to run around as an agent. In the sister show, Family Guy, Dr. Hartman even makes a comment that giant chicken is the result of some lab experiment gone wrong.
The result wound up being a man-sized chicken that was incredibly hostile.
It wouldn't be too much to think that the CIA would hire random doctors and scientists to work on these humanoid creatures, creating so many that it got to the point that no one really noticed them as being all that different. Roger is a hive mind with multiple bodies. This has been made canon in the show, but was further discussed by Reddit user Sexy Shafter. Now, in one of the many post-apocalyptic time frames, Roger is shown to be responsible for the downfall of society. After visiting the Langley Quantum Labs, Roger becomes caught in a crossfire that causes some of his particles to separate, creating entire bodies for his personas, and creating the dreaded 200 that Roger had assumed he simply made up. Though the end of that episode led us to believe that all of the other bodies were taken out by a giant fire-breathing Klaus, that's another issue on its own. Roger was sent to be a crash dummy by Emperor Zing. We've already touched on the episode where Roger realizes that his role as the Decider is a fabrication. The episode leads to Roger having to come to terms with the fact that he was considered disposable by his own race. However, Roger is easily able to call his race to pick him up in a later episode after Jeff finds out he's an alien. So how does all this come together? Jeff and the Majestic reveal that Emperor Zing and Roger had a relationship in the past, but the Emperor was heartbroken after Roger cheated on him with a human.
Can we please be grown-ups about this? Because I can't.
This would then lead to Zing denouncing love and claiming it is non-existent, and having Roger sentenced to be exiled or killed on the home planet of the species he cheated on Zing with. The fact that Roger was able to easily call the ship to pick him up only helps solidify that fact. Zing had everything set up for a new slave to be working in the food stand meant to represent Earth's greatest contribution. It's not hard to guess that Emperor Zing was prepared to have Roger return with their people only to be disgraced as a slave, and the only reason he hadn't before was because he assumed Roger died on impact. Roger is as powerful as Superman. Reddit user RaunchKing91 starts this speculation with a pretty simple entry listing some of Roger's powers. His ability to survive in space, his super speed, his super strength when compared to a human, and his near immortality. Roger can take a lot of damage. He has no issue being tossed through a moving car, can handle being lit on fire, can create a charge with his body that's like that of a defibrillator, and can survive an obscene amount of drug and alcohol use.
How'd you know I was fireproof? I didn't even know.
We even see that Roger is able to create gold with his body, as seen with Rogu when he's under a great deal of pressure. And that's not even getting into his hive mind abilities and the ability to become pregnant. The world has ended / Stan's personal heaven. This was actually confirmed in Season 6 after the rapture occurred. As user Some Weird Italian points out on Reddit, this would explain why so many ridiculous things happen within the show that Stan and his family are able to overcome.
It is what your heart most desires.
While the Smith family does seem to face some consequences for their actions, they usually end up getting the bare minimum as far as any real punishment goes. Times such as Haley and Stan going on a bender and jumping off rooftops, able to avoid injury due to intoxication. Stan surviving his car plunging into the river twice, and the family escaping from a POW camp while competing on a TV show. There have been some episodes in which Stan had died, either with or without his family at his side, but all of those instances were overcome fairly easily, such as when he was able to make a pact with the devil to go back to Earth in exchange for being damned. This theory also correlates with another episode where an angel takes Stan to his original family with the explanation that Francine, Steve, and Haley were sent to be a lesson to get Stan to appreciate his life more.
Where's my real family?
This is your real family.
Later on in the series, when Stan does die, he spends his eternity with the family he claimed he loved more, that being the flawed people that were supposed to be a punishment. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments section below which of these theories you think are the biggest truth bombs and which ones are total BS. And make sure to watch our American Dad Good to Evil video where we go over the morality of the full American Dad cast. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our BS to Truth Bomb playlist. But most importantly, stay wicked.